Welcome, everyone. I'm Pam Smith, the CEO of United Way, and it is so good to be back with you all. I just hope you know how much I really did miss each and every one of you, and I appreciate you making the time to be here today. So thank you so much. It's so good to be in person. And I feel like we have to kind of break through the fourth dimension and that plane of Zoom and realize that we are all together again. We thought maybe we should have like a dress code for today's event. And then we thought, we'd just be happy if you all remembered to wear pants. So thank you for being here. And also for those of you that live in Zoom land, you can't mute me today because we're live, so sorry. Before we do get started, please enjoy your lunch throughout. If you need anything, ask one of our team members that's walking around or an EMU person, and we'll be glad to get it for you. We want you to be as comfortable as possible today. So before we get started, we did want to share a welcome from our board chair who wasn't able to be with us today, Greg Dill.
Good afternoon. I am Gregory Dill, Chairman of the Board of the United Way of Washtenaw County. Welcome to our community town hall and campaign kickoff. I wish that I could be there with you today, but I'm traveling for business. You have been there in the past, and we appreciate your ongoing support as we continue to address the difficult challenges in our community. Your help and support create a Washtenaw County that we can be proud of. Thank you to our local businesses whose philanthropic leadership gives their teams the chance to be change agents, who open their workplace to talk about community and what it means to be engaged and giving back. The United Way has been in this community for more than 100 years, a testament to doing good and doing it by living united. I want to thank our campaign chairs, Pastor Mashad Evans, Emily Moore Marshall, and Tim Marshall. We appreciate your leadership. Thank you, and back to you, Pam.
Thanks, Greg. We want to recognize our campaign chair that worked with us for the past 2 years, through the throes of the pandemic, when we didn't know what was going to happen. He raised his hand and he stayed with us both years. It was really a heavy lift. So Brandon Tucker, could you stand and be recognized, please? We also want to thank Lee Graydon, who's here today, for representing Eastern Michigan University and being our host today. Thank you, Lee. We'd also like to acknowledge elected officials and those who are running for office. Thank you for supporting our community through public service. Could you stand, please? Now, one of the best parts of my job is getting a Live United sprinkle, a little something unexpected that always gives me a boost. The other day, I was at the Washtenaw Community College picnic and kickoff, and a volunteer and I were standing there when we were passing out t-shirts and water, and she casually says to me, "I volunteered for the United Way campaign for 15 years. And I was like, 15 years? That's a long time to do anything, let alone out of the goodness of your heart. So Rachel Marsh is a WCC employee that couldn't be with us today, but that was a real sprinkle for me. In the checkout line, a cashier noticed that I was wearing a Live United pin, and she asked me if I worked there, and I said I did. And she said, "Well, you helped me when I had no one. So tell those donors thank you." So thank you. That's a Live United sprinkle. And at a University of Michigan campaign a few years ago, Tony Denton asked for a show of hands for the number of years people had volunteered. Hands went up for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And then a woman in the back raised her hand and said, "I've been the campaign coordinator for my unit for 30 years. 30 years. And another dynamic duo, Anita Greca and Debbie Schills, are here today from the University of Michigan. They have volunteered for almost a decade as the campaign coordinators for the entire campus. So thank you so much. That's another sprinkle. I probably could tell you a story about each person here in this room, but I won't. But there are many of you that have made our mission come to life. And the last sprinkle I'm going to share is about a longtime supporter. His mom was raising money for us in the 1960s, and I don't think he has missed a kickoff campaign in decades. So Steve Dobson, would you stand up and let us give you a round of applause? Our volunteers just don't quit, and neither do we. Each person makes a difference during our campaign, and there's a lot of fun to be had. Katie Boone and I got Mike Wash, the CFO at NSF, to flip pancakes for a staff breakfast. He's here today. Gina Stuck, the coordinator of 9 years at Highland, convinced Matt Highland, the regional president, to take a pie in the face for us. Thank you, Gina. And I know the infamous duo of J. Paul Dixon and Dave Scaff are famous for singing an original song that they wrote just for us. Thank you very much. Jamie Robb has been working her magic for over 5 years at the Bank of Ann Arbor and helps them achieve their goal and exceed it every single year. And John Bailey at RIS, Retirement Income Solutions, you only have one campaign under your belt, but I know that we got you for life, so thank you. Each person's actions brings our mission to life, and each dollar raised has the power to create new opportunity in our community. So thanks to each and every one of you here today. As a matter of fact, please take just a moment at your table and thank someone. I guarantee that they have made a difference in someone's life. On the way out today, please thank any and everyone that you see, because I think it's really important to recognize that each person makes a difference. Now, I know the past few years has been a bit of a blur. I might need that glass tinkling again from the back of the room. Thank you. I know the past few years have been a blur, and we wanted to share some of the great accomplishments that have happened in this community because of your consistent support. I am going to go through these slides pretty darn quick, but information is at your table with a QR code as well as our website, so you can go back and get full lists in full financial transparency of all the dollars that we've raised and have been invested. The first one is COVID. We raised almost $2 million to help with the high needs in our community. 99 grants were awarded. The Justice Fund, that is $380,000 that went out in hopes of disrupting systems and policies and practices that perpetuate poverty, racism, and trauma in our community. The Power of the Purse funds last year raised $46,000. Those funds were directly invested in programs that help women throughout Washtenaw County. The Community Impact Fund, $1 million was invested this year with the promise of a 3-year investment to over 50 nonprofits in our community. That happened because of you. Thank you. The Opportunity Fund, $200,000 is invested in new nonprofits or new programs in our community. Next up is Trust Plus. Trust Plus is our financial coaching program. They remediated over $500,000 in client debt and helped those people become debt-free. Pretty impressive. And as far as VITA goes, which is our volunteer income tax assistance, $1.46 million was returned to our clients who reinvested those dollars right back into our community. It's truly amazing. We leverage funds and we leverage partnerships in our community. Larger organizations invest in us because of the great work we're doing, because of volunteers just like you. Thanks to Felicia Braybeck, our representative, a state of Michigan $275,000 investment was made in United Way in our financial stability programs. $500,000 came to us from the Racial Disparity Task Force, a state organization that helped us spread those dollars across the COVID-inflicted community. And Southeast Michigan United Way, our neighbors to the east, gave us over $200,000 to invest in our community for safe haven and out-of-school time grants, putting, gosh, if I added up, hundreds of laptops into communities so that kids and students would have the access that they needed. We've invested millions since our last in-person event almost 3 years ago. I want to thank my entire team for this body of work, especially our CFO, Val Kennings, our VP of Resource Development, Susan Smith, and our VP of Impact and Advocacy, Bridget Herman, for being thought leaders and problem solvers. They certainly bring a little United Way sprinkle to my life every day, so thank you. I could probably talk for hours about all of the great work and the great people making it happen as a result of those investments. But what I'd rather do is recognize all of the agency partners that are here with us today. So if you're a nonprofit executive director or a staff member, could you please stand? We would love to recognize you for the work you've done throughout the pandemic and that you continue to do every day in our community. Please don't be shy. Stand up. I'm so glad they're here today because I hope that you take the time to talk to each one of them and learn more about their mission and their nonprofit agency and the work that they're doing. On your tables, there are links to WEMU's Washtenaw United, which is our weekly radio show that highlights our local nonprofits and current issues in the community. So please use the QR codes and take a listen to these interesting interviews that are available for you new each week. We continue to bring community-centric fundraising to life and invest in people and programs that support health, education, and the financial stability of people in Washtenaw County. In addition, we're excited about new investments we've made through the Justice Fund to advance social justice and support systems change work and advocacy efforts. Also, please be sure to sign up for the 2023 Equity Challenge that will happen in January of 2023. The conversation that started here in this community has sparked over 300,000 people at different United Ways across the country to engage in equity conversations and equity challenges in their community. So it's a big deal to us, and we're happy that we're part of it. So the Equity Challenge, it's great for businesses. You can have your employees do it. It's totally free, and it'll begin in January of 2023. Let's keep that conversation going. If you want more details about the investments, use the QR codes, or you can visit our website. That's all on your table. And now it's my pleasure to bring to the stage one of our 3 co-chairs for this year's campaign, Pastor Mashad Evans.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now, as a pastor, I'm used to call and response. So unless you want me to start to preach a sermon, I need a little bit more enthusiasm from this group. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Well, I'm not here to preach a sermon, but I am here to speak on some good news. There's an African proverb which states, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And in many ways, this proverb captures this year's campaign theme, United We Thrive. In order to go far, in order to thrive, we need access to our greatest resource, And what is our greatest resource? One another. Over the past century, the United Way of Washtenaw County has consistently worked with community members and partners to fulfill the organization's visions and goal, to bridge societal gaps, and to create sustainable positive impact. This significant sustainable impact is made possible through partnerships, through relationships nurtured by a deep passion for and commitment to our mission, to provide health, education, and financial stability to every member of the community. Every member of the community. And now, I'm happy to introduce a short video from a Justice Fund grantee, Survivors Speak.
Hello, my name is Trisha Duckworth. I am the Executive Director and founder of Survivors Speak. We are so grateful to have been a recipient of this year's Justice Fund from the United Way of Washtenaw County. With this funding, we are planning a big community forum called Getting Real About Race. It's Time for Repair, where we'll take a look at exactly what we need to repair and make amends for racism here in America. We'll have world-renowned activist Tim Wise with a lot of other local speakers and organizations as well. We also are planning Operation Accountability, where we work side by side with legislators to form a racial equity plan and then holding them accountable to bring that plan about. We're also launching our reparations campaign and our pull-up turn-up, where we pull up in the disenfranchised community to reignite the voice of the community, the voice of those that have been forgotten about, and let them know that we need their voices to help bring about change. We are truly excited for the work that we will be able to do with this funding, and we have so much more planned, and this was made possible by you. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to bring up the other two co-chairs for this year's campaign. And I just want to say it feels kind of full circle because Tim Marshall was actually on my hiring committee, so I hope everybody thinks he made a good choice. But here is Tim Marshall and Emily Moore Marshall.
I would say we made a good decision, wouldn't you? Yeah. Well, I got up this morning and bounced into the office where Emily was doing some internet browsing, and I said, honey.
I was working.
Oh, you were working.
I was working.
I stand corrected. Now, that happens occasionally. I said, I've written my best 45-minute speech. She didn't think that was a very good idea, and I'm pretty confident neither do you. So I've whittled it down just to a few comments, and I would just like to say that Pastor Evans, Emily, and myself are just super excited, super energized to lead a very successful 22-23 United Way campaign. Mm-hmm. Very excited.
Yes, we are.
We all know that we live in a thriving community, but unfortunately, our thriving community is not all-inclusive. The statistics show us that. Over 31% of the local households struggle to meet basic human needs: housing, food, healthcare. We need to rally around the United Way and help move that percentage down. And I think we can do that this year. We've got a lot going on, a lot of momentum, and we just have to deliver. The local United Way connects these people that are disconnected, that are struggling to make ends meet. And they do it by connecting people, resources, organizations to create a thriving community, as Pastor Evans commented earlier, for everyone in our community. We need your help. We need to raise more money this year. You know, I was thinking, if we just said, what about a 10% increase by all of us? that would add over $400,000 in new dollars to give back to this community. And it's not that difficult. And I'll use an easy number here, but if you're a $500 contributor, to give an extra $50 for 22-23, that's a little over $3 a month. I think we can all do that. I think we can all reach just a little bit deeper and give back to this community to make sure that everyone in this community thrives. So how are we going to do it? Let us show you. Would everybody please stand up? Okay, everybody ready? Let's everybody reach out to your neighbor and hold their hand. Okay? Let's everybody hold their hand. Okay? Okay, now let's everybody reach high. Reach high. High. Higher. Shake those hands. Okay, now let's everybody cheer. Let's hear some noise. Woohoo! Woo! Okay, I'm going to take a cue from Pastor Evans. I don't think that was very good. And I think if we don't do better, I'm going to invite Pastor Evans to come up here and give a 45-minute sermon on how to do things right. One more time, everybody hold hands. Okay, everybody reach high. Make some noise. How about some noise? Woo! So how are we going to do it? We're going to hold hands. We're going to work together. We're going to set high goals. Is 10% enough? I don't know. How about 15? How about 20? We have to set high goals. And at the end of the day, when we reach those high goals, we have to celebrate our successes. And we've got to make some noise and celebrate. And to finish up, I'm happy to report that Emily and I have secured 3 new Tocqueville Society members, and the combination of their 3 unrestricted contributions is $50,000. Let's go get it done. Okay.
While you guys start dessert, we'd like to bring Bridget Herman, the VP of Impact and Advocacy, to the stage, as well as the 4 panelists. So if you could make your way up to the front of the room, that would be great.
Come on in. Hello, everybody. Is this thing on? It's on? Okay, great. Yeah. Hi, everybody. As our panelists get settled in, you'll see their names, affiliations, and photos behind me. These are 4 powerhouse individuals who were helping realize our vision of creating a thriving community for everyone. And so you all know that United Ways have always had giving, advocating, and volunteering as part of our mission and the way in which we move our mission forward. But we're conceiving of a new way to pursue this work. Had to get that in there. And we're adding equity to the mix because it takes a focus on equity and a commitment to justice as we also continue to give, advocate, and volunteer. And so I have on the stage with me 4 individuals who are volunteering locally, committing themselves to an equity journey, and then working locally at a social justice nonprofit, and who are exemplary examples, that was alliterative, of how we're pursuing this work. And so I want to begin by talking about advocacy. That's the work that United Way has been leaning into over the last couple of years. It's the newest body of work, and you'll see that that's the focus of the Justice Fund. And so I have with me Desiree Simmons and Eleanor Ablin Owen of Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. So to both of you, I want to understand, what does advocacy mean to you in the work that you're currently pursuing, and why do you see it as a valuable and necessary tool for positive change at this time?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm not a pastor, but I do guest sermons, so I'm gonna, no. Good to see everyone this afternoon. So thinking about advocacy, why it's important, what it means. One thing I think is important about advocacy, like the skills, is first to listen. It's about listening to what's happening in the community, what the needs are, where people's joy is, because we can advocate for good things too. But it's really to think about what is it that we're hearing and what needs to be uplifted. So thinking about in conversations and places of power, privilege, decision making, whose voices are not there, and trying to uplift those into those spaces. Learning along the way, because a lot of times we can't just put out one answer and think it's going to solve everything. It's a lot of trial and error. And trying to prepare what we need to do to reach the change that we all have in mind. And again, voice. Bringing voice into space, having it help to push for what folks need, and having the voices that are most impacted and necessary being part of actually deciding what the future course looks like.
Thanks for that response, Desiree. I think that's important to clarify what that means, because it seems like a term that has a lot attached to it, a lot of stigma attached to it, particularly from local nonprofits. And so I'm here to say, if you are a nonprofit, you can engage in advocacy. ICPJ is a great example of that, and as individuals, we can engage in advocacy. So I think it'd be helpful to know if folks are thinking, I might want to get involved. Could you share a little bit more, Eleanor and Desiree, about the advocacy and community change work you're currently focused on, and why it's important to help create a thriving community here in Washtenaw County?
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eleanor Ablin Owen, and Des and I are co-directors at ICPJ. So there are so many different ways to advocate and get involved in advocacy for communities, and I think the most important thing is remembering what it is that you're centering, who it is that's being centered. Just at the beginning of August, the tri-bar contamination of the Huron River is something that a lot of us got together. There were hundreds of people at a rally, very quickly organized to bring attention to what happened and to advocate for change. And one of the things that came up is, we can't just ask that we shut down tri-bar and just shut down that one company that has contaminated the river repeatedly, because we know that then would just move to a different location, most likely in a community that is a Black and brown community, low-income community. And so we need to look at how we advocate and what we're centering. So in that situation, we're centering, we don't want that contamination to be moved to a different community. We want that contamination to be stopped. We don't need chromed hooded ornaments on our cars. We can do things differently in a way that doesn't produce PFAS, doesn't produce chemicals that contaminate our water. And so in advocacy, it's really important to keep coming back to what is it that we're centering? Who is it that we're centering? And one of the things that we're asking folks to get involved in is coming up. We have a community dinner on Tuesday at the Freight House, and the purpose for it is for community to come together. And again, as Des was talking about, we have to listen to people and say, okay, so what is it that we want? And our conversation is centered around the Washtenaw County budget. And with that conversation, we have to remember, we have a way that we have been doing things. We have been spending more than 70% of Washtenaw County general budget on imprisonment and policing and the courts. And that's not how we should be spending our money. We should be spending our money on services that people really need: affordable housing, shelters, things that we really know will serve people. And so to change that, we're building an advocacy campaign to really get people involved. But as Deb said, what we need to do is figure out, by listening to people, what it is that the community's priorities are. And so it really does come back to constantly remembering that your advocacy can kind of go astray, and you need to make sure that people are involved in leadership. You need to have humility and grace and listen to folks about what direction that advocacy should go.
Thanks so much for that response. We have historically focused on programming, and nonprofit programs are essential, and they help people beat the odds. And it's advocacy that helps to change the odds, because it changes inequitable systems and policies that are keeping these entrenched problems in place. So thank you for really illuminating that in the work that you're doing at ICPJ. I appreciate it. Now I want to turn to volunteering. It's this other part of one of our core strategies to move our mission forward. And it's definitely been a challenge during the pandemic. We all saw a huge drop-off in in-person volunteering necessarily during the height of the pandemic before vaccines were made available. And yet, there are folks in our community who have been unwavering in our commitment to community service. And one of them is to my left, Dennis Bush. And so Dennis has been a volunteer for our voluntary income tax assistance program, the impact of which you saw earlier in our remarks today. Pandemic be damned, you were there volunteering in person and virtually. And so I'm curious, Dennis, why do you volunteer, especially to provide free tax preparation, which just thinking about the IRS scares me?
I'm not a CPA, and I don't do taxes professionally, but I really love doing them, helping people do their taxes. That's really the mission I'm on when I volunteer. Just a more general comment in terms of advocacy, that I think that programs and funding or at a macro level have very, very major impact, but another major impact is just boots on the ground, working individually, one-on-one with an individual family, household, to improve their lot, level the playing field, raise the playing field for them, increase the financial stability and viability of those households and individuals. And the VITA program is a free. It's a free tax clinic, basically. The VITA volunteer income tax assistance, and the assistance is kind of ambiguous. No, we don't pay their taxes. That's not that kind of assistance. We help them complete their returns. In the pandemic, I've done this for 4 years. By the way, I'm filling in for a guy named Bob Mull, who a lot of you probably know in other circles. He spearheaded the startup of the VITA program in conjunction through United Way in the Washtenaw County area about 12 or 15 years. So he's been with it the whole time. He's kind of the godfather of the program in a lot of ways. But I think just you saw the numbers, I think, earlier, but the numbers were down a lot. We had fewer clients. We dropped probably about 25% client volume drop. We lost a number of preparers. We typically have about 80. We were probably down around 40 or 50. And most importantly, 6 weeks into the 2020 tax filing season, things shut down. And we had to go remote, and we didn't have the systems in place. It was just we had to jury rig something, a core group of about 35 high producer preparers chipped in and dealt with it, but we had to do it remotely. And that dramatically changes the feel of the program, especially for the clients. It's not as good a service quality. It's less productive for us. It represents all kinds of challenges to work remotely. Imagine clients having to take pictures of their W-2 with their phone and somehow getting it to us in a secure platform. So we had to jury rig that stuff. Last year got better. We teamed up with some other United Ways in the Michigan area, and we had more infrastructure to do that. But we're going to be back in person this year, maybe not 100%, but we're going to be back, and that will make a major, major difference. We really want to grow, the clients back up. We'd like to hit over 1,000 clients. And we want to get back up to our level of 80 or 90 volunteers. And by the way, the volunteers, none of them are professional tax preparers. Frightening thought. But more frightening is free software, free tax preparation software for individuals who are below certain income, moderate income level or below. That's daunting too. Imagine trying to fill all that stuff out. So there's it's an important connection to make with a client, and it's an opportunity for us to not only get them big refunds, and they have been huge refunds in the last couple of years. Not only that, but it's just engaging them and sort of improving their financial stability and helping them along with the way. So to me, that's kind of an advocacy one-on-one.
Thanks for sharing that, Dennis. And I think you spoke to the power of that one-on-one experience that you have with clients as kind of the drive that keeps you coming back. I know that you are your own tax aficionado and you've done your taxes on paper forever. But just for folks in the room, we were not deterred by the pandemic. We had a virtual option for you to engage, which, you worked with us on, and I really appreciate that. For other folks, what's your call to action? When you, for folks to throw their hat in the ring and begin volunteering again in the community, what do you want to share with them?
Well, we are, anyone in the audience, I'm not asking you to necessarily be tax preparers. That's probably a frightening thought for a lot of you too. But it's a voluntary program. It's 20 to 25 hours of training, and you're not doing corporate taxes, partnership taxes, or anything like that. It's a lot of meat and potatoes, but it is also some very interesting tax credits and things that have to happen. So it's doable, and we need more volunteers. So I'd encourage you, and we have a lot of undergrad and graduate students and young adults in their 20s who volunteer, and it's incredible. They're just really, really high producers. They're wonderful. So volunteers. And to the extent that any of you in the sort of agency nonprofit realm have clients, direct them toward United Way, the 211 number. There's a number on the website. This is a showcase program for the United Way because of the amount of money that it returns to the community by doing the taxes well and not having our clients have to pay, even with free software. It's not always free, and you have to pay state taxes, et cetera. So I would encourage more clients, more volunteers. We welcome to bring you on board and bring more clients on board.
Thanks, Dennis. So I'm hearing the water's fine. And for folks who are ready to jump back in, please visit volunteerwashtenaw.org. If VITA isn't your thing, there are hundreds of other volunteer opportunities available in our community. Next, I want to turn to Ellen Copeland Brown to talk about the equity component of our strategy. And now, Ellen is a very special individual to United Way. Since 2020, we have offered 5 versions of our 21-day equity challenge, and she has participated in all of them. So Ellen, I gotta know, what's your why for continuing to raise your hand to explore bias, privilege, and inequity in our community?
First I want to say good afternoon all, and I so thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak on behalf of that. One of the things that is constantly said is, what can I do? I'm only one. But the reality is, we ought to be asking, what can't I do? I believe that service is the rent we pay for being here on this earth, and each of us have the opportunity to do something. My why always has to be about those that are coming behind me. I am one of 9. I'm from a family of 9. I got 8 siblings who are alive and healthy, thank the Lord. However, we have a unique story, and I don't have time for it, but I'm a true Ann Arborite, born and raised here. And I love Ann Arbor, and I love the University of Michigan, of which I have had the privilege to serve in a working capacity for over 40 years. I want my, go blue. And I am vested in making this a better place than what I've found or walked into. And so each day I look for the opportunity to utilize the resources that I pull from United Way and the Equity Challenge. And there have limitless resources. The opportunity to meet others at the gatherings that are brought together, the staff at the United Way, and the people throughout the community. It gives me the information that when I come in contact, that I do have something that I can give and be of service to another individual along this walk.
Thank you for sharing that. And you have a couple hundred folks gathered in this room today, so I want to ask you a big question. What's possible? What do you think is possible when we all engage in this type of effort collectively?
I deal in possibilities, and I see endless amounts of them. I had the opportunity to learn to I'm a closet introvert, you may not be able to tell, but what the need is so strong that it forced my voice to come out. And so it's not just about us getting people at the table. That's the equality part of it. But the equity part is making sure that you have passed down to them the microphone so that their voice can be elevated. And so for those who sit like I was, always entering the room, it wasn't a lack of that, but it was that I never felt that I was being asked a question, actually. And so having the light that not just continues to shine on those who sit the tallest and the closest and have the loudest voice, but those who may be sitting in the back hunched over and maybe looking like, please don't call on me. But it is within those, bringing the voice that comes out of that we find that there are hidden jewels, that there are hidden power, and that the needs of what they have to contribute, if we listen and allow them to amplify their voice, helps us move just a little further on. And like the pastor said, let's go together and be stronger and faster.
Yes. So what you've heard are 3 ways to get involved with United Way. You can advocate with us or one of our community partners. You can volunteer with us or one of our community partners, and you can participate in an equity challenge. Those are 3 letters, but the one that always remains is giving, because we know it takes monetary resources in addition to these 3 strategies to make our mission and our vision come to life. So I want to please join me in thanking our panelists for their time and contribution of wisdom today. And I'd like to welcome back to the stage our VP, our Chief Workforce and Community Development Officer for Washtenaw Community College, and our very own Vice Chair of the United Way Board, Brandon Tucker. Thank you so much.
Wow. Can we give that panel another round of applause? I'm proud to serve as the vice chair of our board of directors, and it is so great to be back in person. Before we go, our team has a special thank you for our immediate past board chair, who led us through the pandemic in 2021. Rich Chang, you're in the room. Could you please stand? And can you help me give him a round of applause of appreciation for his leadership and his service. You've heard a lot of inspiring stories today, and here is our ask to you. What do you want to remember when you leave? Our commitment to addressing poverty, racism, and trauma, how to give, the name of one group, United Way Invest, in whose story you heard today. Our call to action to all of you is a result of this kickoff. Please give to United Way. Sign up for the 2023 Equity Challenge. Sign up for our advocacy alerts, and maybe commit to visiting the Volunteer Center or Catch Fire. There's a QR code on your table. Our hashtag for this campaign is United We Thrive. Let's make this a great year and show Washtenaw County what we're capable of. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, and live united.